Good afternoon, Sydney. For those that I'm yet to meet today, my name is Michael Whiteside from QMS Media. And today we're going to go through, or we're extending on, what was presented earlier in terms of the IB Buyer's Guide, as well as the updated attitudes to programmatic out of home, which now indicates that 69% of AU buyers now regularly consider trading out of home programmatically. We know that the application of that has been pretty inconsistent. We know the application's been pretty inconsistent. So today we're kind of going, I don't know what's happened to me. Yeah, I know. Yes, no. Today we're going to go through some practical use cases and frameworks to prove the efficacy of programmatic out of home within a media plan. Looking at other channels, namely display, audio and video, we know that they have adopted programmatic trade for many reasons. The main part, or one of which, is convergence of trade with the more traditional forms. Out of home remains slightly separate to that, given mainly the consistency of assets that traditional out of home and programmatic out of home both have access to. So for those reasons, we on the panel today, along with a lot of others within the room, frequently get asked how we transition tactical, ad hoc, programmatic out of home spend into more strategic BAU evergreen type strategies. So we've got some of the best in the industry today to talk through the frameworks that they've applied within their groups. So to kick us off in terms of intros, Lambo.
Hi guys, can you hear me? Yes. Yeah, cool. Hi, I'm James Lambert. Some people call me Lambo. I work for WPP Media on our digital out of home business.
Hello. Oh, it is also working. My name's Jacqueline Ingram, or Jack Ingram. I work very closely with Lambo. I'm the National Head of Client Development for WPP Advanced Digital Out of Home. Very long title.
I'm Janae, so I work at Kinesso. I work with the activations teams in Sydney across UM and Initiative as the General Manager of Activation, so programmatic outdoor, but also all digital platforms and channels.
Thanks for joining me today. So to set the scene, we are future gazing to start with in terms of where we predict programmatic out of home to be by 2030. The reason for that is to develop and design these frameworks, we need to make sure that it's fit for future purpose. In terms of the flow of today, it's going to be some Q&A, which we're going to deep dive into, but that is why you, in terms of the audience, have the panels as well. So we're going to have some audience participation. If you agree, go green. If you disagree, go red. In terms of statements, questions, whatever you kind of want to respond to, just to get some conflicting opinions happening. So, first question being, in terms of programmatic in AU, we're now sitting at, or programmatic makes up about 8 to 10% of digital out of home investment in AU. If we look to Europe, it's sitting more like 20%. If we look at the US, that has surpassed 30% now. Do we forecast a similar adoption curve towards 30% by 2030? Mostly yes. Panelists? Yes. Okay. Very unanimous to start with. Lambo, where or have you seen why yes from you, and where do you see it going?
It's strong here, really strong in Australia. I think the 30% though, it's a bit of an arbitrary number in terms of US and looking at 20% in terms of Europe. I think if we just need to take a look at it and go like, what's good for every business, what's good for our industry in this market. My business is pretty happy with our adoption rate. If I'm looking at comparisons compared to other WPP media markets for advanced digital out of home, We book 4 times as many campaigns as Germany, which is seen to be a bit of a standard. We do twice as many campaigns as the UK and the US, and we do 2 to 3 times the amount of clients that have actually adopted it. So for a bit of context there, that was about 90 odd clients last year, and about 500 campaigns for programmatic digital out of home out of WPP Australia. We think that we're definitely leading it from a global standpoint with our business, within our business. I'm not saying in the industry and AU. I'll let you guys make that decision. But yeah, we've been on a journey for 5 years now, and our growth's been pretty steady. I know, over the last 5 years, having worked with Janae and Whitey when I was on the other side as well, they've been on that similar sort of trajectory and have been doing it for the right reasons. I think we've seen probably some challenges with TV spend and display. I'm not going to say that's all just gone towards out of home, but out of home certainly has benefited. We're also making sure that from a programmatic standpoint as well, we're very much getting further up the stream. So from pitches, retention clients, we're getting in there with strategy, planning stages as well. And then as a result of that, it's not everything that we do from a programmatic standpoint is purpose-built for programmatic. You can't replicate it via direct IO.
Are you seeing similar, Janae, within your group?
Yeah, I mean, it's been an interesting 5 years, Lambo, hasn't it? From those first couple of campaigns that we were running with the old Deliveroo and a Specsavers here or there. At IPG this year is sitting at around 16 to 17% programmatic out of home of all outdoors, so inclusive of static and direct digital. And that's been a pretty hard-fought percentage. So I did say yes to, I think, 30% by, 2030?
2030.
Thank you. But I still think that's going to be really difficult. It's not like that 16, 17% has come easily. It's happened via way of early adopters in the programmatic space. And I think those of us sitting here on stage can all attest to the blood, sweat and tears that's gone into that. And if we want to see it scale realistically to that 30%, first of all, we know that on this stage we're sort of pulling up the average, I think, in market, which most would attest to. But we need a bit of a different strategy to get that much further. So whether it's an approach to automation through the industry or something like the Buyer's Guide that standardises buying from more places, these are the things that will move the channel sort of out from, I guess, the guide of early adopters and into the majority of our industry and agencies.
Nice. You mentioned the word automation there. I think there's growing narrative in market in terms of what's not traded programmatically by 2030 will be somewhat automated. Is that something that you're planning for within your group?
Definitely, and I think it's not just limited to programmatic outdoor. It's a very it's a no-brainer from our perspective when it comes to programmatic out of home because of the benefit that we have. And I think to one of Lambo's points, like a lot of the investment that I'll see kind of pop up now is often driven at the coalface of client conversations and planning conversations. And it often comes from hearing a client's business problem and actually being able to solve that through the value points of automation that we're all kind of very much familiar with. I think that's going to expand further as more and more people understand the value of it.
Perfect. So for anyone doing the maths in terms of 30%, including a bit of CAGR growth over the next 4 or 5 years, 30% makes up probably around a $400 to $500 million market. So approximately the same size as the current radio market in AU. Next question being, because of that, in terms of that increase in size and forecast increase in size, are there programmatic out-of-home capability enhancements required to fully capitalise on this adoption forecast? Audience? No, yes? Bit of a mix. Panellists? Okay, nice. Jack, why are you saying no?
I'm going to be a bit controversial here. I, in my opinion, think the capabilities already exist. We saw it on the slides earlier, but it's education that's required. We also need to shift, as Janae was saying, more clients, more brands into the programmatic outdoor space and develop clients who might have dipped their toes in but aren't utilising it to its full capability at the moment. That's not to say that I don't think advancements are required. I definitely do. And this year we're having a lot of questions around DCO. I think we heard that on the last panel as well. That's probably more for clients who were early adopters, a little bit more mature in their approach to programmatic planning and buying at the moment. And that's going to propel them forward. But I don't think that's what's holding us back from getting to that 30% number.
Okay. And in terms of where that broader familiarisation or education is going to come from, is that incumbent on the DSPs? Is it incumbent on the media owners? Is it the agencies that are going to progress that, or a bit of a collaborative effort?
I think definitely a collaborative effort. I think the more people can be talking about it, I say this all the time, when I'm speaking to publishers, we have a relatively small team and we're doing exceptionally well with the team that we have, but the more people are talking about programmatic, the better. So I think it really sits on everyone to be accountable for that education.
Awesome. I think
Sorry, I've got to build on that. I think it's partly talking about programmatic, but we also need to make sure that we are just really talking about what is the output, and the output is the channel reaching an audience, and let's not overcomplicate it. We still just need to be talking about out of home. I think when we talk about programmatic, we can probably, I think some people in the programmatic space, Nick Brignall has been one of them. No, I'm just kidding. But I think there's been a tendency to potentially oversimplify the complexities of the channel. So it's like we do need to respect the nuance of the channel, but then also people in the out-of-home space definitely need to be a lot more comfortable to just go and have a conversation with someone that works for a tech company, that works in a trading desk, etc. So part of it's education, but part of it is we're all trying to achieve the same thing. We all want to have a good time as well. It's a fun industry. We don't bite, no one bites, so it's just like, let's just talk more.
Awesome. Bit of a challenge for everyone in this room, I think. So if the focus does become on everything that you just mentioned in terms of audience, more familiarisation, we do need to analyse the cost benefit of that activity, which again was brought up in the recent attitudes update. Third question for the audience: is programmatic out-of-home measurement currently sufficient to provide brands the confidence to invest or continue to invest, learn and analyse the cost benefit of their activity? Mixed, mostly yeses again. Panel.
I think a lot of the case studies... Wait, why are you laughing?
Jump straight in.
A lot of the case studies that we've seen in the last couple of years, the tech that has powered them is actually really hard. Like, it's one thing to come up with that idea. It's another thing to execute it, and then it's another thing to report on it. And they're kind of grueling and exhausting, these types of measurement that we've been doing. But that rigour is what has supported the growth. So we're going to chat about a case study that we have from a private health insurer in the Melbourne market, run by Eliza Winter, who was on the panel in Melbourne. And that advertiser was one that was an early adopter of programmatic out-of-home 5 years ago. And at that point in time, the measurement that they were relying on was really just centred around effectiveness and just understanding the channels. So what was the tactical execution actually doing? What was the benefit? And over time, that measurement and iteration has gone through so many different layers to get to quite a sophisticated place now where the channel can be measured against its other performance activity. That was something that we were talking about 5 years ago, but to be honest, I never really thought we'd see the day that we would get to that level of sophistication. To Lambo's point, I think you can measure a lot. There is a lot of capability. It's just, why are you doing it? And then how do you test something and then put it into your broader marketing strategy?
Nice. Any conflicting opinions or?
There's plenty there. Like, there's so much that can be done, which is bloody awesome. But I think that there's still a few things that aren't necessarily there yet, but I think that they're pretty much coming. The tech enhancement's always building, which is fantastic. I know Elizabeth and the OMA team, they've been working tirelessly on Move 2, and that'll be amazing once that comes out, and that is factored in even more so than just the impression multiplier. I think we're on the cusp of a few things coming through. You know, attention as well, Whitey. I think that that's a really important one as well that needs to come through. But there's plenty there, more to come pretty soon, I would have thought.
Love it, and there will be. So speaking of confidence to invest in what's been a relatively flat market this year, digital has grown 5% year to date, which is relatively modest in terms of digital's long-term growth trend. Out of home is growing at 14, 15, 16% this year. Programmatic out of home has accelerated even faster than that. Where, and this is probably a multiple choice question for the audience firstly, but where has that programmatic out of home investment come from? So maybe a hands up if you think it's come from TV, linear TV, a few yeses. Hands up if it's come from traditional out of home. A few less hands. Other digital channels. A few more hands. Nice. Jack, you've come from a media owner recently into WPP. You've probably got a pretty good perspective or interesting opinion on this. Where have you seen it come from?
Yeah, I have started my career working publisher side and always only in outdoor, so I'm very passionate about the channel, and I think the panel would agree. I think we really want to utilise programmatic as a way to grow outdoor rather than fighting for share within it. So in order to do that, you know, it's speaking to digital channels or digital clients that are very comfortable with that way of buying and are wanting to expand that into the physical space. Moving across, I've definitely seen that I'm speaking more and more to performance and digital teams, which is a pretty good indication of where budgets are coming from. TV is back 5%. Outdoor publishers over the last 5-10 years have done a great job at talking about how outdoor can be really complementary, and I think we heard in the last panel as well is that CTV shifting over to full motion capable screens as well. So there's definitely a part to play there too. So I'd say, you know, digital, TV, and I think social is probably where we go next.
Definitely social.
I think we've seen it come from other digital channels more this year than ever. I think historically it has come a lot from awareness layers, TV declines, but I think this is the first time I've noticed it coming from like really tactical social campaigns here and there, and I think that's a positive sign too.
Yeah, great. Did you want to elaborate, mate? Looked like you were going to say something.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Yeah, I think the measurement capability and also just some cool creative things, that's definitely allowing us, I think also the agility as well. I think social is probably going to be a big one that a lot of people in this room would maybe want to see some of those sweet meta dollars or TikTok dollars. So yeah, I reckon that's going to be a pretty big opportunity. But again, it's what's the right mix. It's not going one channel needs to suffer from, you know, for another to succeed. It's how do they work well together.
Yeah, and I think from our angle, we've seen a lot of brands that have in-housed their digital. They have started to look at licensing tech to buy and invest in programmatic out of home themselves. So that itself is probably a pretty good signal that they are starting to look at investing or migrating investment from other digital channels anyway to start to prime their audience, build those consideration pools to then supercharge what their performance marketing looks like internally as well. All right, Lambo. So the enablement of everything that we have just discussed in terms of unified marketplace, capability development, measurement, channel synergies, all of that is very much largely contingent on DSP capabilities. We know that, I'm not sure everyone agrees with this analogy, but Uber has platformed to a degree mobility, Netflix have to a degree platformed content. How have you seen the platforming of out-of-home change the industry? And what frameworks have you built internally within your group to accommodate?
Yeah, we didn't necessarily just build a framework. We built a bit of a vision, you know, a business solution called Advanced Digital Out of Home. Just a small plug there. When I first came in 5 years ago, I was surrounded by, you know, I guess arguably some of the best programmatic minds in the country, including Nick Brignall, my boss there. And we used to come to blows a little bit just in terms of what was the right balance in terms of, are we leaning too much programmatic? Are we leaning too much towards, the traditional ways of doing digital out of home? We think we've struck a real healthy balance. We've built our own proprietary platform. We've provided an end-to-end solution. Part of that solution includes creative, it includes an analytics suite, it includes a proprietary marketplace. The whole idea, and a specialist team, to be honest. We've got a team that has come from all of various out-of-home companies, but then we're also supported by a lot of people that just know the tech and data piece really well, which is fantastic. So I think it's allowed us to build a lot of trust as a result of that. The main thing that we want to do is just do stuff with the out-of-home channel that we've never been able to do before. So what does that mean? More agile, more attributable, more accountable, than it's ever been before. Personalisation at scale, and context is super important. So, it's all about just taking a look and going, for the 10 years that I worked in out-of-home sales, it was going, geez, we can't do this because of long lead times, or, avails we're completely sold out, or static, can't do much with that you can do heaps from creatively, but from a dynamic standpoint, it's a little bit different. So it's more so looking at it and going, what can we do that we haven't been able to do before?
Awesome. From a different perspective, in terms of a diff group, are you doing similar things? Are you frameworking in similar fashions?
Well, I guess it's interesting because we've both had growth in different ways, but with totally different strategies. And we, whilst it's very fun being in a specialist team, I do miss that myself often, we have a more kind of generalist route. And what that's meant for us is we've had to get more specific around what activation looks like, because we have to ensure quality via our processes and via our platforms. So we've had to apply a lot of rigor there so that we could continue to scale, and that someone that walks in our business tomorrow can kind of pick that up and run something and still achieve the same results. And then conversely, we've had to, it's out of necessity, but it's also an opportunity for a lot of people to open up the planning capabilities and the planning side of platforms, and talking to publishers and tech platforms, to anyone in our business who is willing and able to engage in that conversation. So rather than having that be a specialty skill, we've kind of opened it up for people to develop their own knowledge of the platform and start to think about tactics that apply specifically to their clients, to kind of continue to drive that client-centric narrative, which is, I think it's quite different, but we've sort of ended up in similar places.
Awesome. So next we want to dive into some practical ways that tactical application has evolved into more evergreen, strategic BAU placements, I guess, within the media plan. To do so, Janae alluded to it earlier in terms of a health insurance brand going down this path, utilising search data to inform site selection, audience relevance, with then search uplift measured off the back of that. Do you want to elaborate a little bit more on that in terms of the concept and potentially some results?
Happy to, though. I do feel I'm borrowing your work and other people's work slightly, but happy to represent it all the same. For one of our private health insurance client in Melbourne, working with both QMS and DB360, there was a test done by the team that was, I think, the first sort of within our agency, where we're really leaning into the performance of search and our ability to both plan based off postcode information. So looking at the cross-section of those who were in market for private health insurance, but also indexing low against the brand term for this particular business, and then activating in those areas over a time frame to see how much we're able to shift the dial across that campaign. And the early results that have come through have shown a 6% increase, compounding improvement week on week, which is huge. And that test has been done, to your point, in the not in the peak season for sales for this advertiser. So that's really important, that it's allowed the team to pay more attention to what's going on in the campaign and to make sure the results were strong. But that's an example of a tactic that can then be applied across a FINEA media plan. and it's something that can be taken to different channels as well. It's quite a sophisticated way to be looking at a plan, and it sounds simple, but it's not, because you need people who are understanding both search, planning and activation, and programmatic and the media plan and the client. And in that instance, it's a really great example where that collaboration has come together as well between tech and media.
Yeah, great. And I think, could you say there's a nice complementary effect in terms of traditional out-of-home priming a broader audience, and then using this tactic to almost dynamically see where that surging demand is coming from and adapt accordingly?
Yes, definitely. It's a part of the broader outdoor strategy. It's not to replace anything. It's very much something that would be incremental to the rest of the media plan, but something that's speaking to a different audience on the client side and also internally within our business.
Awesome. Jack, you've done something similar, not quite with search data, but transaction data informing similar concepts from a targeting perspective and then from a measurement perspective as well.
Yeah, we ran a awesome campaign for an FMCG brand where we used transactional Sakana data overlaid with our AI tool Copilot. And what that meant was we were able to, in real time, optimise the campaign based on transactional sales data. It ran across our whole WPP solutions suite, so it was advanced programmatic, digital, outdoor and TV, and we saw some really incredible results, sales results, but also from an outdoor perspective, you know, because that we were letting the tool do its job, some shifts into outdoor as well. That's probably the gold star, and appreciate that not every client's going to jump straight in and go there. We've also seen a lot of success with clients who start off with, you know, dipping their toes in with just audience. Sorry, I say just, but it's a great start. Audience targeting and seeing some confidence and success in the first campaign. So they come back and utilise countdown triggers, and again, building to what is now, you know, always on campaigns that are very tactical. Because of our agility and our flexibility, we're able to adjust to their needs on a day-to-day basis.
You mentioned DCO just then to a degree, and DCO earlier. I mean, we've seen research showing that there's significant increase in long-term memory encoding when brands associate or wrap themselves around content. DCO is probably a low commitment yet elegant way of doing that. Are there any, I think you alluded to a couple of examples last week, Lambo, but does anyone have any examples there in terms of success using DCO?
Yeah, we've got a few. There's a great one that I think Jack was talking about, but I'll go into a bit more depth with it. This is a hospitality provider and hospitality and entertainment provider that's feeding in. Basically, they're trying to just do guerrilla competitor conquesting. So they're wanting to target against, against competitors to not shit can, but try and drive away from those particular venues to their own. I think that's a pretty amazing one. I think that there's been some other good ones in terms of, just in terms of Mars. They did a great one for their extra campaign, and basically the idea of it was, when are you going to be thinking about chewing or thinking? And then therefore the need to chew gum, because when people think, they might want to chew gum. So they found out all these different environments and created, we basically came out with a heap of different creative according to those particular moments of time or different environments. That was a really good one, I think, in terms of gold standard of various contexts there. Another one as well, we did one which had 400 unique pieces of creative for an FMCG brand. Basically, we were able to come up with a bit of a template there, and using that DCO campaign.
Still a lot of creatives.
Yeah, it's a fuckload, isn't it? Yeah. So,
I don't know if I'd be taking that campaign on personally.
Yeah, it was. I'm just like, what can we do? Let's do it. Because we wouldn't have gotten the campaign otherwise. So it was my favourite people up in the ops team up there, Elia, Didn't really love it, but yeah, she she did an amazing job of bringing it to life. So yeah, I'd say that those are a few examples.
Awesome. Well, Ben spoke about the use of AI to accelerate a bit of that creative process, so perhaps something to consider. We want to leave a couple minutes for audience questions, if there are any from the crowd.
I've got a question.
Great.
But if there are any, do we have any hands up? No? So, Janae, to your point of sometimes the gold star case studies are hard. Yeah?
Yes, yes.
I know, I've judged a few of them and it's like there's some magic there, but you can see the sticky tape. As we get closer to outcome-based measurement being the rage you saw in the research, market mix modelling, cross-media side of things, is the data that is available from programmatic out of home giving it the best chance to shine in, let's say, market mix modelling to start with?
I think in some instances, yes, but you have to be very mindful about the way you are activating that campaign, storing that data, and then sharing it externally as well to any of our market mix modelling providers. You really, to actually have it show up as its own individual item in that modelling, you have to really speak to your client and to the third party who's doing that measurement so that they understand it and they tag it the whole way through the journey. Otherwise, it very quickly does just get lumped in with all of out of home altogether.
Okay.
So it's a big watch out.
Yeah, and I guess have a think, and you know, Jack and Lambo, like if there's anything from an industry point of view or harmonising or making sure that's going through to give it the best chance, be good to have your thoughts on, you know, if there is anything we can be doing differently. No?
Over to you, Jack.
What do you think, Jack? You're delegating.
Oh, no, I think I'll take a stab.
Yeah,
Do you want
go
to?
for it.
I think it is. It's specific to supply and buying. So it's specific to the SSP and the DSP and the level of transparency that we're providing in any kind of data stream through to an external party. So it's something that has to be opted into by the client and by the agency, but there are definitely benefits and huge benefits to providing that level of understanding the whole way through the measurement chain.
Great.
I think it's a bit of a watch out in terms of measuring an overall outcome on what is right now probably 2% of a media plan as well, and tempering expectations on how much impact that's actually going to have. So in terms of what can be measured, there's a lot of measurement parameters that we can overlay in terms of path to purchase, or a lot of channel synergies that we've just spoken about. So they're really good signals to demonstrate impact and influence, but there's so many variables that still go into an MMM type model, and I just think, yeah.
It's a tricky one, right? Because you need to prove it to get more sometimes. But
Absolutely.
Yeah, but good call out.
Yeah, I agree. I think just in terms of it, probably there's a lot less of this now, but definitely a few years ago, I think people were just looking at it in terms of going, what can you do with programmatic digital out of home with, you know, 15K investment or something? It's like, it's very hard to prove the impact of that. Like, let's stop looking at it in isolation. I think that's even just been probably a challenge for overall total out of home as well, in some of those MMM frameworks as well.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you for getting the swearing award, Lambo, for today's sessions.
My bad.
And one correction, digital is growing faster than 5%. So we have our financial year revenue report coming out tomorrow, and it's still double digits. So it's good to see us all growing. Thank you to the Michael and the panel.
Thank you.